Big challenge for us, obviously, this week. Coming off a big home win last week over a top 15 team, and one of the great things in the SEC, unlike just about every other conference, usually when you get a big time win over a top 15 team, you load up and you play a team that's ranked even higher the next week. So, we get to do that this week, going on the road, playing Georgia, top team in the East. It looks like how it crosses over every year. You never know. It probably looks like you're going to play the top two teams in the East with Georgia and Kentucky this year. But we got this tough challenge right now. Going on the road, playing a tough environment against an excellent football team. Our guys got a different environment. Last week, like we said, home opener, home SEC opener. Different level of play, different style of game maybe than the first two games. This week coming back, and now it's your first SEC road game, which adds different challenges to the picture. Of the environment, the crowd noise, all of those different things. A little bit different. We don't play Georgia very often. I think it's only the third time since I've been the head coach here that we're going to be playing Georgia, and we don't play them, I guess, how the schedule works for another 7 years after this. So. There's some uniqueness in it, but we're going to have to come out there and improve a great deal off of last week and continue to take steps forward if we want to succeed and get a win.
Coach, just talk about Jace and what he showed you in practice to get more opportunities to kick, and I know you made a couple of PATs prior to that, but he just showed you something in practice.
Yeah. Percentage-wise, he put the most through the upright in practice last week. So at the end of the week, just use simple math and looked at the percentages, and he had the highest percentage of makes during practice. So we went with him, and he did a good job in the game.
Coach, obviously you had a big crowd Saturday and a lot of recruits there, big recruiting weekend. Just talk about, of course, the win helps a lot of things, but just that atmosphere and the feedback you get from recruits.
Well, anytime you have that type of atmosphere, that's one of the things we came here, we wanted to build, is creating a home field advantage and create an unbelievable game day atmosphere. And over the last 9 years is something we've focused on. You look at our attendance numbers are up 20,000 per game from 9 years ago. That's a lot. That's a major increase. That's right. Up over 30-some% in attendance in the last 9 years. And I said 9 years ago to all our fans when I got here, it works. They show up and create an unbelievable game day environment. We start winning. It doesn't go the opposite way. If they need to show up first, and then we'll win. And they've done that. They've done that throughout the years, and they continue to do that. You see that Saturday night, and they're a major factor in that, in us succeeding, not just during that game, but also recruiting, creating that type of environment that, when kids come to campus, that they want to come play in, and not just in football and other sports. A lot of the sports have different recruits at games, and they come in and see this unbelievable environment and say, this is something I want to be a part of.
Coach, leading the league in scoring and second in scoring defense, are either of those statistics surprising to you, or are you on schedule, or how would you characterize it?
I'll feel great about it if we had played 12 games already. But after 3, we'll see. Statistics are hard to measure through 3 games. In a season, because there's a lot of different variables of who everybody plays within the schedule. But through 12, it starts to balance out. So if we can, be near the top in both categories at the end of the season, I think we'll be pretty happy.
Hey Dan, don't have Chauncey Rivers, you don't have Corey Thomas, and yet your defensive line is playing pretty well. What is it about them that has enabled them to do that without those 2 guys?
Well, I think one is, we constantly talk about building the depth of guys being ready for when their opportunity comes. And, Brian Baker's been with me now going into year 2, so I think he understands some of those expectations of rolling guys through and getting guys ready to play so they don't have to, you get in a situation where you have a defensive lineman that's played 85 snaps in a game. And so whether it's been practice and games and expectations and those things, we've been able to, we've tried to grow and build that depth. And so, I think guys are taking advantage of their opportunities. As you said, we're a young team, and there's a lot of young players on this team. There's, a guy like, you look and there's there's not a senior on the defensive line, and yet you're going to add some more guys next year into that depth.
Jonathan Abrams seems to have crafted out a pretty big role for himself early on. What did he do in August to kind of take command of that?
Well, I think, since he's been here on campus, he's a guy who has a great personality, great demeanor, really good work ethic. And I think one of the things that, again, we want to play a bunch of different players and roll guys through, and allows them to be fresh and play harder through 4 quarters. And he's obviously having played in this style of defense a little bit before he came here when he was a freshman. So I think there's a little bit of understanding of him in the scheme, so that helped him pick it up faster. But he has just a tremendous work ethic and a drive and his unbelievably self-motivation to go out there and seize those reps. And it's a fantastic thing when you look at the balance. I don't think we had not one of our safeties played more than 40 reps in that game. And over a course of a season, one, it keeps you fresh in that game. So in the fourth quarter, we had the lead and they're trying to rally a comeback. We have a lot of fresh guys still on the field because we rotated players. One, but two, also for the long term of the season, that they're fresher as the year goes on.
With Nick's ties to Georgia, do you have to help him manage his emotions this week, or is he old enough to handle that right now?
Hopefully he's okay to handle it. We'll see. I'll see if he looks weird or has any silly looks. But he better get his emotions in check because we're playing a very athletic, very good defense. So I think watching the film will straighten out those emotions pretty quickly.
Good. You hit on the ranking, the tough road environment. From personnel-wise, what challenges does Georgia present?
Well, besides all their 5-star players,
And what do they do well?
they do a lot well. They got big athletic guys on defense. They can play. They can play in multiple fronts on the defensive line and play you with personnel that fits each of those fronts. You know what I mean? They can play in 3-4 with 3-4 personnel, 4-3 with 4-3 personnel, nickel with nickel personnel, and they're going to put a 5-star player at every one of those positions. They're pretty darn good. The other side of the ball, they have not just, you say, okay, let's stop this running back. They have 2 of the top running backs in the country, and both of them have a little different style. And I've always been a big believer in that. You say, okay, what is one running back compared to another? Those 2 guys can run the same play, but it's going to be very different depending on who runs it, just because of the style of the backs. They got some athletic receivers that can go stretch the field. Like I said, I'm in quarterback. One 5-star quarterback went in and another went out, and another 5-star quarterback came in, so I don't think that's a big issue for them.
I'm sure that much hadn't changed in 48 hours, but Corey and Gabe still out this Saturday.
Gabe will be questionable. Corey will be out this week. We'll see if Gabe makes it back or not as the week goes on.
Both foot, leg related stuff.
Foot injuries.
Yeah. Will he see still possibly this week?
We'll see how it goes. He practiced at the end of last week, so I think he's medically cleared to play. Our question is at what percentage he is. You know what I mean? So it's we'll see how he feels and how he's moving and all of that stuff to see if he's physically ready to go.
Stuart Reese has seen some pretty good defensive linemen in his first 3 weeks. How do you coach a young player like that deal with the ups and downs of facing some of the quality defensive linemen he's faced?
Well, I think Stuart's a pretty mature kid and pretty sharp guy. So he understands the challenges that he's in, but I think he takes it seriously and to focus on his improvement. The thing I'm probably most pleased with is a guy that doesn't seem to have been bothered by the stage that he's had to been put on and having to go block some of the guys he's had to block. He hasn't been perfect, but hasn't been bothered by that and embraced it and continues to improve his game. And he's played better from one week to the next so far all 3 weeks this season.
Sticking with the offensive line, it usually takes a little while for a group like that to kind of gel together when you have guys in a couple different roles and whatnot on the offensive line. So what is it about your group that they've gotten off to that fast start where it doesn't seem like it took them that long?
Well, I think there's some good personalities with leadership. And I think a lot of that maybe was set even during training camp. When Elton was banged up a little bit in training camp and Martinez went right in to play center. You know, and here's a guy that's, you know, is getting a lot of national attention as a tackle, and unselfishly immediately just goes to center. I think that kind of sets the tone for the group of, hey, it really doesn't matter what spot you're at or who's in the game. All five of us got to work hard, work together to get the job done for us to be successful. And if all five of us do work together, we will have success no matter what position you have to go play. You know, and also though, you know, with different combinations, sometimes when you do have guys banged up like we did in training camp, you had to throw different combinations out there on the field. Guys are something, they get comfortable, you know, it's not like, I can only function if this one guy's next to me. Hey, I can function with some different combinations on the field and be confident in what we're doing.
With DJ being on Georgia's staff last year, just how much does he help with the scouting report, and does that give y'all any type of advantage?
I don't think so, you know, really. I mean, you know, watch the film and say they're running this defense. He's like, yeah, they're running that defense. Great, you know, thanks. I saw that in film already. I don't know that it really gives much a big advantage. I mean, he's going to know some of the personnel probably a little bit better than you would on a normal week, but I don't know that there's any significant advantage to that.
Basically, a very basic question, but you guys did really good on third down defensively. What makes a good defensive team on third downs?
Well, I think one of the big factors, a bunch of different combinations. One, obviously, I think the defensive staff and Todd, they do a great job of scheming the opponents we're playing to, you know, be able to get some pressure on different quarterbacks and mix up the looks while we're doing it. So, you know, he's got to possibly hold the ball a little bit longer than he wants to, and all of a sudden we're creating some pressure, whether it's with our with blitzes or with just our front four. I think that's a big deal. I think our secondary's been playing better so far this season, which certainly helps. And I think another big one is how hard 11 guys run the ball, where, you know, if all of a sudden a pass is completed, we have guys swarming to the football, or they do run the ball, or they throw a screen. Even if somebody breaks a tackle, we have guys swarming to the football. You know, and it's eliminating the run after catch for first downs. And I think all those things have contributed to it.
Coach, I'm probably setting you up here, but a win Saturday would tie you with Alan McKean. Alan McKean for second most victories in program history. What would that mean?
A win Saturday would mean we're 2-0 in the SEC West, and I haven't really thought about much beyond that. But I guess that's cool. Means I've been here probably for a long time.
You guys make it relatively healthy out of the game.
We did. You know, that's Dan Jacoby sometimes will come up, and, you know, like, sometimes he's like the Grim Reaper when he walks into the room after the game, and he came out and said we ended up pretty healthy walking out of it. So nothing more than your normal Sunday bumps and bruises, and which is pretty fortunate.
Nick's decision-making in the game, throwing it away several times, throws that deep ball to Gray where only he has a chance to get it. Those little things starting to improve a little bit. You seeing that?
I do, because, you know, it comes down to decision making is a lot about the processing of, you know, it really comes to the processing of information, how fast you can process it, how comfortable you are with things. And you're really starting to see him, you know, process it, take what the defense gives you, you know, and a lot of times with young quarterbacks, what happens too is we'll practice something and they'll expect a look, and when it doesn't happen that exact same way, it's almost like they wish it to happen that way, and they're going to throw it. You know, the worst thing you can ever say to a quarterback, I laugh, it's like you're a zone read team. I learned this early in my career. Boy, I really think you should have pulled that last one on the zone read and kept it. Because there's about 100% chance that he's going to pull the next one. No matter what, they could have 3 guys come to tackle him, and he's going to keep the ball. He's like, well, you told me to pull it the last time. I said, no, that the one before you should have probably pulled, but each play's independent. But a lot of times young players, you know, as they mature, when things don't turn out exactly the way we practiced or exactly the way we think it's going to happen, are you still making good decisions? And, you know, not predetermining what you're going to do or what you expect to happen on the field. That you see it and you just take what the defense gives you, and he's maturing that way.
Jonathan Abram had transferred from Georgia, went to JUCO. When you have a guy like that, do you ask him, like, why did you transfer, or is that so far removed at that point that you don't really care that
During
much?
recruiting, we'll ask, you know what I mean, just find out all the different reasons and what's going on with him, because, I mean, before we bring him into the program, you want to know as much as you can about all these guys. Make sure you're making decisions to bring them in for the right reasons, and they're making decisions to come here for the right reasons, so. But, no, you can ask him if you want about it all.